So welcome everybody to stage 3. So I'm from GSK, my name is Eric Thomann, and I'm here today to share with you one on a digital transformation initiative that's going to complete by the end of this month, so very shortly, which is our journey to cloud, and with the support of my colleague from SAP and partner in crime for the last 18 months, right? So Daniel, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you very much, Eric. So my name is Daniel Ludik. I'm Manager of Transformation Services at SAP. Time to time working as a project manager. And I had the opportunity to work with Eric on this engagement. As you will hear, it was very challenging. On the other hand, super experience for both parties.
And successful experience, right? Okay, so if I start to give you a quick glance at GSK, so for people who are not familiar, we are a biopharma company. So last year, 2023, global revenue of 30 billion plus. Our primary line of products is vaccine, right? We manufacture vaccine with some 1 billion revenue for our top 10 vaccine products, including Shingrix, which is a shingle, our flu vaccine. Then we got specialty medicine on the pharma side to treat disease like HIV. Right, and recently is oncology. We just started again our oncology business. And the last one is more general medicine and products around antibiotics to fight any disease. Okay. Our investment on research and development is around 6 billion. So you can understand that's the last portion of our commitment to the world, right? And our objective is by 2031 is to offer and support, right, people over 2.5 billion patients across the world. Okay? So next, so as I mentioned briefly as an introduction, right? Through our digital transformation, so GSK is going through, like most of the company, through a big digital transformation. The first step is you need to move to cloud. You need to adopt cloud to leverage all the benefits of cloud provides to company. All right. So 18 months ago, all right, we started the project with some commitment from the business because GSK still go through the digital transformation. So what we committed to the business is, 18 months with minimum disruption to any product launch, any BAU, business as usual operation disturbance. Okay, so that was our commitment as a project. In a nutshell, should be fully transparent. Okay. So how we achieve that? Okay, so based on our experience of previous large project deployment, but now with the big difference is we are on a single ERP platform that supports globally GSK. So the impact of anything going wrong will impact GSK globally. All right, from manufacturing, shipping, distribution, and finance. So based on our experience, we use our previous experience that we need a strong process. We need a very early engagement for the business. So they are with us all on site, so communication to the business. And when we develop the plan, as an example, right, we agreed the dates to make sure there's no conflict with any other major activities. As I said, either product launch or either BAU standard activities like our flu season. right? We start from a production from July and the distribution early September, right? So no major activity should happen during this period. Okay, from a governance and process perspective as well, you probably understand that we are a federated, industry. So we're going to follow a very strict process with the right methodology that's been approved by our auditors and the FDA to ensure we got the right governance in place and checkpoint all around this journey. Okay. So stepping back is more, why are we doing this? So as I said, that's the first step. That's the first step of the global digital transformation. That's an enabler, right? So our scope, if I summarize the business case, is to be out of all our data centers across the globe by the end of this month. Okay, so that's why I mentioned we are very close to complete the project. Okay? By doing this, we also took the opportunity to rationalize, right? We haven't looked at our environment application since we started our journey on the ERP deployment, is to really rationalize all this application and take the opportunity to reduce the number of applications as well, but also to reduce the data. Data that's been sitting there, they are no longer required either from a legal requirement or from an operation perspective. Okay? It's like moving house. You just look at it, said, do I really need to move this with me or not? All right? Also, one of the benefits and what we committed is adopting cloud, we should adopt the best practice in terms of security, vulnerability, cyber security as well, right? To make sure we protect our assets. Okay. Another, and I mentioned briefly, that's to enable us to start to take advantage of the machine learning in two key areas. One was more in the R&D area, is to be faster in terms of investigating and developing products. And the other one is, as part of the journey, is to enable machine learning around our supply chain, doing, predictive analytics around the demand, the production line, things like this. Okay, to be more efficient, and our time to market, which takes in months, for example, should take weeks. All right. So on the top of this, adopting cloud is a big change from GSK as well, and for people. So we also committed to make sure our target operating model is in place, communicated, simplified. So only one, for example, going to cloud is one platform. So when you request some capacity in terms of, I would say, compute or storage, there's only one way. You don't have to, depending on where your location is, where your hardware partner, is only one process, and also the delivery of the capacity and the requirement is fulfilled much, much, much quicker. Okay? I mentioned briefly, right, so we took the opportunity to look at, we started with 3.5 petabyte of data to be moved, right? Obviously, we didn't take everything along us, so we took the opportunity to reduce our data footprint. And probably last but not the least is to meet our commitment from GSK on our carbon footprint by 2030 to be carbon neutral. We took the opportunity as part of this exercise to reduce our carbon impact by 98%. Right? Okay, so just a very high level of the project. The key watch out, as I said, right, is very early, when you look at this, 18 months ago, Feb 2023, once we got the green light with this project, very early engagement with the business across the globe, you can imagine, right? To make sure we check there's no disruption to any other big programs, big transformation around GSK, and also no BAU impact, okay, to day-to-day normal operation. Right? So Daniel is going to talk about more the technical details after that because he's the expert. So I'm just going to stay high level, but very early to understand if we can support this plan by the end of June this year. We look into this and we have to do a POC. I think it's common practice. Everybody is doing this to make sure we're comfortable with the tools and we can meet the timelines and the regulation, I will say, requirement. Okay? So we started with the POC that's completed in March last year, so probably a couple of months, right? To validate the tool, to fine-tune the plan, to commit to the business. We're going to deliver this. We can support this plan and meet our objectives. All right? As you can see, probably very high level is the number of test cycles, and you will understand why it's important later on, right? Because of the timeline, we only did 2 test cycles, right? So that's just to highlight the fact that the tools is very, very reliable, right? You got the right team around it. Any challenges, you don't need to spend years or months, additional months to do test cycle after test cycle after test cycle. Keeping in mind as well, as I said, the system is not, there's no freeze on the system, right? Any change was going through and so forth, okay? So that's lead us until the end of September or just before Christmas, I will say, right? On the Q4. The critical point on this type of activities is more to make sure everybody is aligned. So what we did is really focus on a full dress rehearsals. As I said, because at time of go live, the whole GSK will be stopped to make sure everybody is aligned on this. We got all the team, all the support in place, not only SNP, but all our partners involved, all the business stakeholders. So, and to test so the support, the activities, escalation, all our processes are in place to make sure our go live will be successful. Okay, so we did that just before Christmas. It was a success, right? That also helped us to confirm our timeline and to really commit of our downtime or impact to the business for the go live earlier this year, right? Just in time for Christmas, we had a good time, 2 weeks break, then we came back in Jan to really focus now, right? The final green line towards the go live in February. Looking at this, right, so big thank you because we didn't have any single issue, right? Just to give you an insight of the plan, we had 10,000 steps, and you will understand, right, the ecosystem, right? On the plan, we had 10,000 steps to execute over the weekend across 400 people, right? So thanks to our process, thanks to our people, everything was on track, everything was green, and we, completely successfully completed the fully migration, and now we are on the last bit, last part of the project, is to start, so we already started, starting to complete by the end of June, is all the decommissioning of all applications and retired all the hardware before we close our data center. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to Daniel. He will go into the technical details. Right, you can move the slide.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
I was acting as a project manager on this project, and I've done many projects before. You usually do the initial plan. What the project manager thinks of the initial plan is, this is the thing to be replanned pretty soon, right? Usually, for many customers, that applies several times during the project lifecycle. Not at GSK. So from the first moment we came to the project, not a single date has been changed in this plan. So we came as a team to GSK with a huge respect, because we knew that this customer will be super demanding, not complicated. And with the collaboration we had from the very beginning, it was actually with a minimum effort, perfect teamwork on both sides, that none of these dates, as I have mentioned, has changed during those 18 months. And that's success mainly on the side of GSK.
You're welcome.
When we were asked to deliver this project, there were many criteria set by GSK, how we should proceed, what we need to deliver, and what are the criteria when we will be considered to be successful. The main focus was on minimization of the business disruption, and this was kept during the whole project. So when we had regular team meetings, usually one of the first questions, and then also one of the last questions from Eric, was, guys, is there any risk? Do we need to change something? Is everything in place? And this was every single week, same questions, usually without answers, so everything was as it should be. But this was thoroughly monitored by Eric from the very beginning till the end. That was one of the critical points of this success. So not just working without the feedback from the teams, because as Eric has mentioned, it was 400 people globally, the team. We were a small team, but impact a huge part at GSK. So every time there was something that may impact this huge ecosystem, we had to report it immediately. Success on our side, we didn't report usually anything. The important part here is that the feedback mechanism was the key part of this success. And thanks to GSK, how it was implemented, this had a huge impact also on us as a vendor, because we had this safety that they care. Not every customer does care. Regarding the technical background, the GSK ERP system is a global ERP system and with fair amount of data. So it was 39 terabytes compressed on Oracle with a huge volume of data changes. So to get such huge system from source to the target environment, we of course had to use near zero downtime. And I will speak about that later on. We had 100,000 users approximately using this system, which would be impacted if we wouldn't achieve the go live or it would be postponed. Again, this just declares how important, and this was communicated from Eric and the team from the very beginning, the work from S&P is critical for GSK. So if we fail, the whole program will fail. So we took it very seriously from the very beginning. From the technology perspective, it's a standard Crystal Bridge portfolio we used for the project. So starting with the empty shell creation using the S&P shell, and then we have the near zero downtime using standard database triggers, running the uptime data migration, downtime data migration, and then automated data validation in the end. It's a standard process which we have used many times in the past. We just had to do tweaks and improvements during the execution to be sure that we minimize the downtime to the possible minimum. And you will see the runtimes on the next slide. How does the S&P validate helps for such scenarios when we are moving one-to-one from source to target system, is that we are able to automatically compare the data on the standard SAP application layer using the standard SAP reports. Either we create the variants automatically, or the customer provides the variants, and we run the same variants reports on source system, on the target system, and then compare the results. We do this also during the downtime, and it's part of the S&P downtime activities, which means at the moment we are handing over the system to customer during the cutover weekend, the customer receives the information about the data quality instantly. So it's not them starting with the checks and then reporting back to S&P if something was wrong or not. We already have this information at the moment we are handing over the system to the customer. On top of the standard sanity checks, just checking if something did not go wrong. Regarding the performance optimizations, this wasn't that much fun from the very beginning, because with this enormous size of the system and enormous data volume created during the Delta period when we were running the uptime data migration, we had to be sure that we are able to complete the uptime phase in a very short time frame, because it impacts the change freeze on the GSK side, and that was one of the key requirements, that we need to minimize this to as short period as possible. So it was a huge amount of work also on the GSK side and with the partners to make sure that on the technological level we will be able to achieve this. And this is the overview of our runtimes. So on the left side you see the uptime phase. So for the first blue part it's the uptime data migration, followed by the Delta data migration. So that was the Delta data created during the period of the uptime data migration. And when we get to the downtime, that's the first blue on the right side, the downtime phase, the duration, what we have achieved. During the first executions, that was the POC, test cycle 1, test cycle 2, test cycle 1.5, was preceding test cycle 2, we had only generated Delta data. So that means with some automated jobs on the GSK side, we generated the Delta for us to simulate how much would a certain data volume be consumed by the target system and what would be the period needed for this. And we had the real data volume coming from production system as of test cycle 2. So that was the moment when we realized how much of the changes we are really facing. With the indication we had before, we knew that this will not be easy. However, with all the adjustments on the software side, with the optimizations, but mainly on the side of GSK and how well they managed with the infrastructure provider, SAP, and all the parties, this went very well to target 6.5 hours of downtime data migration, followed by 3.5 hours of the automated data validation. So in total, we're at 10 hours. And already when we were running the automated data validation, the system was standstill. We were just checking if everything was right. So even from the runtime perspective, imagine this is almost 40 terabytes compressed, uncompressed data volume significantly more. This is a huge success we have achieved here. And really a benchmark for us, is something to be proud of. So thank you very much, Eric, for that. It was a pleasure to work with GSK. May we have more customers like GSK. That's the wish of SMP.
All right, so we reach our end of this presentation, but just to summarize, so this slide is really important. What you need to take away from this is I gave SNP and Dan in particular the challenge, right? Say, okay, do the POC, you have a target, and you can see the outcome, right? 27 days. But they learn very quickly how to optimize, putting the right guidance, understanding the complexity of the GL landscape. And when you look at that, within 18 months, they were able to reduce by 50% to optimize, I would say, with all the effort. So that gives you a flavor of the tool, if you mean. Starting with knowing nothing about the customer, right? Initial POC with the tool, okay, this is our baseline. And you can see the effort the team has been put, obviously, within the tool and the development support as well, I need to thank them, right? Take the opportunity to thank them to achieve that 50% optimization. All right. So we're done. I just want to, yes, thank you very much for attending today. And I'm going to mention that if you have additional question, I will be in a green room for probably the next 2 hours. If you want at least to make initial contact, you want a follow-up, you got specific question, I will be more than happy to answer any request. Okay? Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.